الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين بارئ الخلائق أجمعين باعث الأنبياء والمرسلين والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا ونبينا وحبيب قلوبنا أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد
اللهم صل على محمد
وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المنتجبين. Praise be to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for all His blessings. We also convey our salutation to the Holy Prophet of Islam and his pure progenies. Brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. It is indeed a great pleasure to be back again at the center, to see old faces. The program that we have for the next 10 nights that I'm going to be your guest will be divided into two sections. The first section will be a short lecture in English, and then we change the channel again, and next lecture after it is going to be in Farsi. Those of you who are bilingual, there might be overlap in few of the issues that I may have to cover. قال الله العظيم في محكم كتابه أعوذ بالله من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم تلك أمة قد خلت لها ما كسبت ولكم ما كسبتم ولا تسألون عما كانوا يعملون. These were people who have passed away. For them is what they have earned, and for you is what you earn. You will not be questioned about what they have done, only about what you are doing. The month of Muharram has already arrived. As you can see, there is a tradition that during the first 10 days or 10 nights, the transformation in most Shia Islamic centers take place. Decors are changed, dark colors are brought in, slogans around the center clearly indicates that this is a unique occasion. As the speakers are invited, they sharpen their speech, trying to focus on a number of issues that they may feel relevant. Normally, there is a tradition that speakers focus on the historical event more than anything else. It is an irony if we really pay attention to it. Muslims 50 years after the demise of the Holy Prophet commit the most heinous of the crime that one could imagine. Under the banner of Islam, they slaughter the grandson of the Holy Prophet and all the male agents in his family in the name of Islam. It begs the question, 50 years before, the Holy Prophet struggled for 23 years to bring honor and dignity to the community. A community that primarily were idol worshippers, that they had nothing to be proud of. As Quran says, إِنَّ الْأَعْرَابَ أَشَدُّ كُفْرًا وَنِفَاقًا. That reflects that image of Jahiliyyah. You couldn't have imagined to be a worse community that Islam had to deal with. Within 30, 40, 50 years, they become the embodiment of civilization, but something goes wrong. Islam is become devoid from within. Ritualistic ideas are adhered to. If you read history, on the day of Ashura, 2 Jama'ah prayers were organized. One Jama'ah prayer is led by Umar ibn Sa'd in one camp, and another Jama'ah prayer is organized by Hussein ibn Ali. Both of them are praying to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and both of them invoking the name of the Holy Prophet. What happened to the community, to the Muslim community, that became so radicalized, if one could say, and polarized? Technically, the name, the appearance was there. Ritual prayers, everything was there. Jum'ah prayers were being organized. But the essence, the spirit of Islam was there. How comes within 50 years it reached to that point? Are there any similarities in our time today where the slogans by the Imam as he traveled around from Medina to Mecca and from there to Karbala, that transcends time and space and creates a formula for the future generation to judge themselves who they are and how close are they to the ideals of the Holy Imam? This is something that I intend to focus upon. What kind of an individual deserves to be given the honor and the dignity of carrying the mantle, the flag, and going ahead with the values and chasing the values that were set down by Imam Hussein and Ahlul Bayt in total? If the uprising of Imam Hussein had the guiding principle of creating a society or constructing or shaping a society which is perceptive to the fact their responsibility towards justice and peace, which we take inspiration from the verse in the Holy Quran that clearly defines this responsibility. لَقَدْ أَرْسَلْنَا رُسُولَنَا. We indeed have sent the messengers, and we have given them all the means and the tools that they want so that they establish justice. If the primary goal, the guiding principle of the uprising was the establishment, the construction, the building of a society, وَإِنَّمَا خَرَجْتُ لِطَلَبِ الْإِصْلَاحِ, I want to reform the society. Then the question has to be asked, what kind of a person can do that? What kind of characteristics we should have to be able to say that we are following this path? Anybody? Simply by claiming allegiance to Islam will be sufficient to be followers of Ahlul Bayt? If that was the case, the whole construction of Ashura is clearly a rejection of this principle. Both parties were claiming to be a Muslim. If you listen to the conversation of Shamr on the day of Ashura, he claims that Hussein is deranged and Khariji, has come out of faith. So the mere lip service to Islam is not sufficient. There must be some unique characteristics that we have to follow. Luckily, if we follow the principle or the path, the historical path, that Imam leads from the moment that he leaves Medina until reaches Karbala, there are a number of slogans that clearly transcends time and space. This is, if you listen to those who recite ta'azis later on, whether it's here or somewhere else, the last moment of Imam's life, he stands in the plain of Karbala and has a call. هَلْ مِن نَاصِرٍ يَنْصُرُ. Is there anyone to help us? He was fully aware that there was nobody left around him. So the call was not for immediate generation, those who were around. The call transcended time. To understand this, we really need to go back to the, how can I put it, to the beginning of creation, human creation. The story of Genesis in Quran, or the Islamic, what we call technically Islamic cosmology, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala at the moment of creation of human being, Adam, for the malaika or the angel created a chaos, leaving that issue for another night. It also created, set into motion this perpetual conflict between haqq and batil. That from that moment until the end of time, there is going to be a constant struggle between these two camps. Batil on one side, falsehood, and justice and haqq and righthood on the other. Where do we locate ourselves? What characteristics we possess will indicate whether we are in one camp or the other. When there is a tradition that after prayers, particularly during this month, Ziyarat Warith is being recited. If you look at what Ziyarat Warith or the supplication tells you, that Hussein is considered to be the heir to the entire message or revelation that took place before Imam Hussein, or before Islam. Marhum Shariati, those of you who are familiar with Persian literature, Hussein waris Adam. Literally, he becomes the embodiment of all values from Adam until his time, and his values become the values that we can use to distinguish or to judge how close we are to that path for the future to come. Or when he says, مِثْلِي لَا يُبَايِعُ مِثْلَهُ, he doesn't say, I'm not going to swear allegiance to Yazid. People who are like me will not swear allegiance to a people like him. This is not a personal issue. Or when he says, وَإِذَا بُلِيَتِ الْإِسْلَامِ بِرَاعٍ مِثْلَ يَزِيدٍ فَعَلَى الْإِسْلَامِ السَّلَامِ. If Bani Umayyah become the spokesperson for Islam, that Islam is corrupted. Now, fast forward, come to our time. Who are the spokesperson for Islam today? The Wahhabis, ISIS, Al-Qaeda, Zawahiri, Qaradawi, and bunch of others that we have. Under the banner of Islam, they become the spokesperson. If we use that principle that says, وَإِذَا بُلِيَتِ الْإِسْلَامِ بِرَاعٍ مِثْلَ يَزِيدٍ, if Bani Umayyah become the spokesperson for Islam, that Islam is vandalized. By implication, we can say Islam, which is being presented by Wahhabis, by Zawahiri, and the rest of the clique, are a vandalized Islam. That's not Islam, the true Islam. When he becomes critical, and he says, can't you see justice being ignored? The right of people being tampered and stepped on? People are being slaughtered. No value, no karama, no dignity for any life. Are you dead? You don't move, you don't react? The same thing we can say to our own situation. So Ashura in our time requires us to reflect and see not just everything else that we do, how close we are as human beings to those ideals, and how receptive are we to the dynamism that Islam has. If the Holy Prophet worked as hard as possible to create a synthesis between consciousness and activism, and in our time we seem to pay attention to a little bit of consciousness, but there is no activism, there is a fundamental problem. If if you look at the verses in the Holy Quran, it talks about Iman, belief, and action. الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وآتوا الزكاة. They are aware of their responsibility towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and their social responsibility as well. Why is it that, or if we were to define Islam today or look at Ashura and see what the message is going to give us, why is it that we see under the banner of Islam innocent lives are being slaughtered and videos taken, put on YouTube, and people say Allahu Akbar? Didn't Shimr on the day of Ashura said the same thing? He severs the head of Imam Hussein and says Allahu Akbar. Why is it that we are still asleep? There is no movement. The legacy of Islam has been violated, and we simply continue with our daily lives of 9 to 5, paying mortgages and going to holidays, etc., etc. We are happy with the glamour of materialism. Nothing, no serious reflection on our beauty. If the day of judgment happens today, I remember during my days in England there was an old Christian man who had a placard hang on his back and would walk along Oxford Street in London and says that it was written on it, "The world ends tomorrow." I was there 22 years and he would walk along this Oxford Street, "The world ends tomorrow." Now let's use this as a serious point for conversation. If the world ends today, what answer do we have to give? Shia is supposed to be an institution that encourages, creates the zeal and the dynamism that interacts or creates that synthesis between consciousness and activism. Why is it that we don't do that? Karbala became the image of that conflict between Haqq and Batil, two camps. If we go to the Holy Quran, the embodiment of the humanity in the best and humanity at its worst. It's through gaining those characteristics that we can find out how close we are and how far are we from the reality. The verse that I recited, تِلْكَ أُمَّةٌ قَدْ خَلَتْ لَهَا مَا كَسَبَتْ وَلَكُمْ مَا كَسَبْتُمْ, frames the principal idea that we cannot remain fixated with the old history. We are Shia community, followers of Ahlul Bayt, not because we are active, not because we have created that synergy between activism and consciousness. We are a community that 1,400 years ago, Imam Hussein rose to resist tyranny and injustice. What about ourselves? Are we prepared to stand up? Are we prepared to defend justice? The fundamental problem when the call comes and transcends the time, who is prepared? Anyone. Man, woman, young, old, whatever. Who is going to stand up and defend our principles of Allah? At any time. I mean, by now you have gone through the traditional recitation, and when ta'azis are being recited, this becomes a cliche. كل أرض كربلاء وكل يوم عاشوراء. It makes a reference to this conflict and perpetual fight between justice and injustice. Karbala becomes a symbol that transcends the times, the year beginning of 61 after Hijrah, becomes a symbol for resistance and activism. The youth, if we fail as adult parents, at least let us think about the future generation that we have responsibility. They are the one. You may have, as parents, you may have sentimental values about back home, wherever that back home is. Iraq, Iran, Pakistan, Afghanistan, Arabia, Lebanon, somewhere else. But the youth, this is their place. They are going to be here. The future of the generation depends on how successfully we can transmit the message to them in a language that they understand. Not in a language we understand and we are comfortable with, in a language they understand. And if we don't understand that language, it's about time that we learn it. They have a different, unique culture, different understanding of the reality. They can't go through what you have gone through, or the way that you recite, you organize, and you honor. They need to comprehend the values that exist within this uprising. If we fail, we have failed a generation. There is a verse in the Holy Quran that says, we can use that as a metaphor. It says that if you kill an innocent life, as if you are killed the entire generation, future generation to come. If you fail to deliver, and Ashura as an institution becomes nothing more than ritual for the young generation, they will leave Ashura, and after our death, there is no one to commemorate or commiserate. It is critical to use Ashura to reflect on our time and ask ourselves, what kind of a human being can really take the flag? Today is Ashura for us. In the turbulent and chaotic world that we live in, what Ashura means in this context, what are our responsibilities, and how should we discharge those responsibilities? These are the themes that inshallah I will be dealing with during the coming nights. As I said at the beginning, for those of you who are bilingual, I try to have different topic for the conversation, for Farsi lectures than the Arabic and than the English lecture. But sometimes there are a number of hadith or sayings that are going to be overlap between the two. So I hope you will forgive. Let me end here with the English lecture and move towards the Persian lecture. By the way they have organized the program this year, I don't think there is room for question and answer after the lectures. If there is such a need for it, we have to schedule getting together some outside the evening program to answer questions. It's up to you. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Bari al-Khalaiq